All right, Richie. So it's good to see you again. It's been actually the last time we had this kind of Rutgers conversation was college basketball time, but for football, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time, but the season's finally pretty much here.
Oh,
Training camp starts up this week, so I'm excited.
yes. Anybody that is watching this show should definitely be excited about camp for Rutgers. And I know there's a lot of people who generally believe that with the loss of some key veterans, and that they still did not reach 500 last season, and they're still not. We're not 100% sure whether or not there's a difference maker at quarterback. That this is still kind of going to be one of those rebuilding years. That if there's a bowl season at the end of the rainbow, then that would still be even maybe just as big, if not bigger, a surprise of what happened last season that they got the bowl invite. But I still think that this is a different era with Shiano and bigger and better players. And we just heard big news that you can throw in there in a couple of seconds that we just heard. So some more transfers that make it a little easier for turnarounds. So, but look, I think it does all have to do with the quarterback situation. I think if Gavin Wimsatt takes control of the quarterback spot and plays the way that we were hoping he's going to play, we're not thinking that he's going to be a superstar overnight, but just gives us a dimension that we haven't seen for years. I think we have a shot. But if it's Noah Vedral again, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely interesting. Greg Schiano hit up the portal very well this offseason. He added a couple offensive linemen in a former four-star Curtis Dunlap, very very well-known transfer in JD DiRenzo, who had about 10 to 12 Power 5 offers out of the portal.
Yep.
And it's coming from Sacred Heart, so it is a big jump to go from Sacred Heart to the Big Ten. But it's significant that you saw programs like Oklahoma, West Virginia,
Sure.
I forget who else, a bunch of others were offering him. So those two are going to be key cogs right there. And then you're also getting Willie Tyler, who was down to a couple different schools. It looked like SMU was making a push. It looked like Texas made a little bit of a push. Or I'm sorry, he was a former Texas lineman, then went to ULM, and now he's at Rutgers. So I mean, he looked decent at ULM, but again, it's another big jump from ULM to the Big Ten. You're not going against, I don't even know what division they're in, the Southwest or something like that.
Oh, the Sun Belt.
The Sun Belt,
Yeah.
close enough, right? Um, yeah, so I mean, to go from the Sun Belt to the Big Ten against the Michigan
Sure.
States, Penn States, or Ohio States of the world is a big jump. So I think it comes down to the offensive line, and then, like you mentioned before, the quarterback is going to be the big issue. Is Noah Vedral going to get that extra year? Is he going to be the starter from game one? I tend to think so right now, because I think that's the safe route against a very dangerous Boston College team. But is Gavin Wimsatt still going to get reps? Yeah, I think 100%. I think it might come down to Wimsatt might play. They might just split reps at quarterback for game one and kind of see how it goes and ride the hot hand and then go from there. Maybe Wimsatt takes over game 2 and 3 versus lower opponents in Wagner and Temple, and then maybe just give him the reins from there on out.
It could be, yeah. And look, he's still a young kid, and we have to understand that. And he's playing in one of the toughest conferences in college football. So, okay, we don't need to put too much pressure on the kid. But the fact is, when you're a four-star quarterback, and we see, and when you're a fan of college football, and you see the landscape of, especially nowadays, where more and more freshmen, kids that are real talented, 5-star, 4-stars, they can play right away. Now, again, not very often at the highest levels like the Big Ten and the SEC, but there's a lot of them sprinkled around that play pretty much right away. And so as a fan, you're like, all right, well, here's our 4-star quarterback, and Noah Vedral is not really, I mean, he's like one of the weakest Power 5 quarterbacks going. So can't you beat him out? We'll take the lumps. But, that's still, it's a big hope. But I agree with you. I probably tend to think that Vedral is week 1 starter.
Yeah, it's a tough situation because, like I said before, this Boston College team's no joke. Under Halfley, they've been pretty damn good. They actually have a very good transfer quarterback in Phil Jerkovich.
Yep.
He's already on NFL draft boards, as you probably know already. But yes, I mean, it's tough. Do you want to throw Wimsatt out there and throw him to the Wolves and kind of see what happens? They tried this a couple years ago under Ash with Sikowski. I know it's not Ohio State that they're going against.
4-star quarterback.
Yeah, he got killed one time by Joey Bosa, and his whole mantra was just off after that. He had zero morale, nothing. And that kind of messed him up as a quarterback for the next year or so. Maybe even like going into this year as well with Illinois. But it's a tough scenario. I would probably say, like saying before, Vedril's probably the safe bet. He's not going to turn the ball over a ton. I know his interception to touchdown ratio is like 1-to-1, but he's not going to turn it over a ton either. So if he can just keep the ball out of the other team's hands, maybe get a couple deep balls here and there, if you can kind of figure that one out. You got a couple new receivers in Shawn Ryan and Taj Harris, who are both pretty damn good, actually. Taj Harris is coming in out of Syracuse, where he had an 800-yard season 2 years ago. So, I mean, they have weapons. It's just a matter of making the quarterback stand upright and getting that ball from the quarterback to the receivers.
Yeah, because that's the point is that, as we started off with, that offensive line, if they're going to be better, and we actually think that they're going to be, then that should make Vedral better as well. Like, give him a little bit more time. He doesn't have to rush the ball, things of that nature. So, and it is the first week of the season.
Yeah.
So I actually like these matchups for Rutgers if they're going to play their top non-conference game, I prefer that to be the road game, first game, because the teams are just not really, I mean, there's only a certain number of practices that they've been up at that point. They're young. If they're going to have a bad week, a lot of times it could be week 1. So I think there's more of an opportunity for a team like Rutgers to steal a win on the road week 1 as opposed to, say, week 2 or 3.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree with that. I don't know about the road thing. I would be a little remiss if I didn't say I want to play at home if I was Rutgers, but
that hasn't really gone very well for us, though.
That's also
for whatever reason over the last few years.
Yeah, it's very bizarre. But yeah, no, I mean, look at Michigan State versus Rutgers 2 years ago. Right. 7 turnovers against Michigan State, and I don't think anyone saw that one coming.
No. So anything's possible.
Yeah, you could catch this BC team by surprise a little bit. They're a little dinged up, too. They're missing one of their top offensive linemen, right, Chris Mahogany, who's out for the year. They're missing a couple other guys. I forget who the specific names, but I mean, if you can catch them by surprise game 1, it could turn around the whole season. I don't want to say this is the litmus test, but it kind of is, because the other 2 out of conference games are just nowhere near as good.
No, not at all. I mean, you can't lose at Temple, that's for sure.
Yeah,
and the thing that really sticks out for me with these offensive linemen: Dunlap, 6'5", 335; DiLorenzo, 6'6", 320; Tyler, 6'6", 320. Even the kid from Colorado State, 6'3", 300. Iron Brown, 6'3", 300. Pierce, 6'8", 330. It goes on, and we haven't. I don't think I've ever seen this before for Rutgers on the offensive line. They never had to be this big before. Now they are, because they need it, and this is what we've been waiting for. Now these guys got to just go out there, make the team, make the starting spot, and we go from there. But I think that that's what gives me hope.
Yeah, it's all about getting bigger in the trenches. That was big. Greg's mantra since he took over. I think he said that at his original press conference, and he's been saying it ever since. It's finally starting to take shape a little bit, but it's tough. Like, as much as I love some of these guys, like Willie Tyler was just okay at ULM, so I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit. Holland Pierce is pretty good. He's been pretty solid. Curtis Dunlap, if healthy, could be very good. It's all about health with him. He tore his Achilles 2 years ago, and he's kind of been struggling to get back to form and back to in shape where he was a couple years ago when he was starting with Minnesota and actually looking really dominant as a guard. Iron Brown is a transfer from Boston College, as you already know. He played defensive tackle for 2 or 3 years and then went to offensive line. So that's an interesting one. He's still kind of learning the position. And J.D. Dorenzo, who I love, I rave about him, but it's going from Sacred Heart to the Big Ten. Yeah. It's a big gap. It's a big jump. Some guys make it fine. Some guys don't. So.
Well, the good thing is their star, like that particular player was a star at that level. Nobody's expecting him to be a star. We don't need him to be a star. We just need him to be a starter.
Yep. Yeah.
And I think that's where I think it helps that we get a star from a lower conference to be a good, reliable starter, someone we can rely on. That's not going to be a bad player.
It's going to be super interesting. I'm intrigued to see how this unit gels, and they have a new coach that no one really was talking about. I know Augie was technically with the team last year, but now Coach Augie Hoffman's going from running backs to offensive line. So now it might be a couple different techniques here and there, but I think he's probably the better. That's the great move for Rutgers. Augie played in the NFL, played for Boston College as an offensive lineman. He's developed a ton of different ones at St. Joe's over the years, and he's won multiple championships with them as a head coach. So. It's gonna be interesting to see if these guys gel, and if they could gel quickly, like we said before, that would just give this quarterback,
Oh,
whether it's
yes.
or Wimsat, a ton of time, and then you might be seeing a pretty decent Rutgers offense.
It would be nice, no question. Because I look, I think after what we saw from Gleason year 1 to year 2, I can understand if there was some criticism. Anybody that wants to go too far with the criticism just needs to step off. All right, it's great that we have an offensive coordinator for the 3rd straight year. He's talented. He just doesn't have the players, man. I mean, what do you expect from an offensive coordinator when he doesn't have the players? So I'm not going to hammer Gleason, and it's always the nitpicking about play calling. You can't even do that when you don't have really good players. So I think last year was a wash for Gleason. He's a good coordinator. He's probably still going to be. I think we said this after year 1. How long could we have him? Because sooner or later he'll probably end up a head coach. So I don't think there's any question about that. So I'm fine with him. But before we move on, as far as the coaches, because there are changes too. So talk about like the top 2 or 3 biggest changes besides Hoffman.
So, I mean, besides the offense, we just talked about Augie. Ulrich switched with him, so now Ulrich is the running backs coach. Not a huge difference between them two. They kind of are recruiting positions for just about everybody anyway. But Jameer Shaw came in as wide receivers coach. He was technically with the program as director of player personnel, but he just got elevated to receivers coach. Ton of Philadelphia connections, big Philly guy. Played at I think it was Roman Catholic or Cardinal O'Hara. That's what it was.
Okay.
Former Tom Savage school, as some Rutgers fans probably remember. Other than that, the defense has an entire different unit of coaches. That's the big makeup here. There's a new DC, there's 2 new DBs coaches, there's a new linebackers coach, and there's a new defensive line coach. Recently, we've seen D-line coach Marquise Watson at Rutgers a couple years ago as a GA under Ash. He just got named to a bunch of different lists. It was like top 30 under 30 coaches list.
There you go.
So
I like the move.
He's a pretty darn good recruiter. He's a good coach. It's going to take time for some of these guys to develop relationships with recruits, and I think that's why recruiting's taking a little bit of a hit right now. But it will get there, I think. In a couple of years, it will get there.
And I'm going to interrupt you on that front because I teased it at the start. Let's just throw it in there. What a great news day for Rutgers football to know that they can end up with a 4-star recruit who hardly played last season for an SEC team and has 4 years of eligibility left, is from our backyard anyway, probably should have been here to begin with. But talk about the big news today and the transfer that Rutgers is going to have for their new to update their defensive line.
Yeah, so I mean, this is huge for Rutgers. They landed Jazian Harris. He's a former 4-star recruit. He was number 120 in the country for us. Erasmus Hall kid, where I'm sure everyone from Erasmus Hall knows about Rutgers. Rutgers knows about Erasmus Hall at this point. It's like a giant pipeline. They got six kids from the program at Rutgers currently now. He's a very good prospect. He actually chose the Aggies pretty late in the process. Rutgers actually finished second in his recruitment, so it's not super surprising to see him come back home. But he could be a dominant edge rusher. He's a little thin on the thinner side, around the 220, 6'5", 220 range. He's going to have to pack on a couple of pounds before he becomes, a key cog in this defensive line. The good news is you're getting him before camp, and the other good news is he's going to be eligible this year. With Mohamed Toure out for the season, this is going to be huge for their edge rushers because they need some help there clearly, and I think Jazian Harris could play a significant role this year.
Yeah, so that was really good news, and we'll talk more about the defense in a little bit. But as far as getting back to the coaching, so who's their new linebacker coach?
Corey Heatherman, or CJ Heatherman, as some call him. He was the DC of James Madison last year, and they ended up, I forget where they ended up finishing, but they ended up finishing pretty high in their conference or whatever.
I was excited about when I heard that, and I looked at his bio. I was like, this guy can coach. Yeah,
it's actually interesting too because he's coached with the new DC Joe Harris-Simiak in the past as well. So there's a lot of connections between this staff. Harris-Simiak's a Jersey guy. He started at Stonehill College. I think Heatherman was his. I forget if it was Heatherman was one of his coaches actually when he was at Stonehill as a GA or something like that. And he ended up like kind of surpassing him in the ranks. And he went to Maine. He brought Heatherman with him. Then Heatherman went down to James Madison, and then Harris-Simiak went out to Minnesota. So I mean, these guys have some pretty good resumes. Yes. It's going to be intriguing to see how it's all going to fit together.
All right. A couple other things before we just run through the each position, and probably got another 10 or 15 minutes with you. So, first of all, I kind of laughed when Coach Shiano was on the interview at the Big Ten Network, and they were talking about the NIL, and you could kind of tell because he didn't bring up the name Basantis, but you can kind of tell that what he was referencing regarding that whole deal was about the player he just lost, because I doubt that kid goes to Texas A&M without the NIL. I just doubt it. So I just think this is one of those deals that is just burning him. So I can imagine how happy he was to grab a Texas A&M defensive lineman, by the way, today as well. Just a coincidence, maybe, I'm sure, because he's been on this kid for years. But anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting because the NIL deal thing is just it's definitely hurting Rutgers at this point.
Yeah, it's tough. So like if people don't know about this yet, there's the Knights of the Raritan. They're like the NIL collective at Rutgers. They're doing a good job like raising funds right now, but it's still nowhere near enough to compete with some of these other programs.
Well, talk a little bit about the whole idea. So basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, so what you're saying is that each school, what are they? They have these like a war chest or something like that of money that if a player, if they want to try to get a player, they can go into the chest and go, all right, well, how much do you want? And then there's the money. The money's there to basically give the kid to come to the school.
So it's sort of a little different than that. So like,
all right.
Legally, the schools can't have anything to do with the collectives, can't have anything to do with NIL. It's all on the kid to figure this out. Now you have schools like Miami and Texas A&M, and all of a sudden they're all like,
yeah, how'd they get so good in recruiting? Where did this come from?
Yeah, all of a sudden I think it's mostly booster money at the end of the day. If you saw, something interesting happened the other day with USC. So USC's collective hired their new person in charge or CEO, whatever you want to call him. They just hired him. He was the director of player personnel for the football program.
Okay.
So it's like, oh, who knows more about recruits than the director of player personnel? Let's put him in charge of the collective instead. Sure. Screw that.
Right.
So it's a little ridiculous. It's insane that this is like all like out there now. I feel like it's obviously been happening for years and years, and we've talked about it, but we never saw it in person and in public. Yeah. And now it's public now, and it's a little incredible. But
so go back to your Rutgers. So go ahead, what you were saying about the Rutgers war chest.
So, a couple guys like John Newman, who people are very familiar with, started this collective. The Towers are involved. All the big names from Rutgers are all involved. So yeah, they're starting to raise money. They're doing like there's a monthly subscription service. There's all kinds of options that people could join. Whether it's $10 a month, $25 a month, $50, et cetera, et cetera. You can get your business involved and all that stuff too. So basically, they have a little collective, a little group of like a people. I forget what the name of the title of their group is, but they have like a little like I don't even know what you call it, like a little boardroom, okay. I guess you want to call that. And they kind of just direct where the money is going to go, whether it's going to go to this player. It played a big role in retaining Caleb McConnell this year for another year for Rutgers basketball. So that's what they're kind of going to do it. They're not doing the shady stuff that everyone else is doing, the pay for play and all that. So their whole basis is once you get to Rutgers, then we can talk NIL. Then we can figure everything out and go from there.
So not until you get there, not until you sign that you're going to return. Okay.
Yeah. So then they're going to kind of use that to help retain players and keep other schools away at this point, which is basically what's happening. Look what happened with the Pittsburgh wide receiver and who's at USC now. He got a pretty big payday over there.
It is what it is, but hopefully it'll have to change at some point. The whole system is just it's nuts. Yeah, this whole Pac-12 thing in the Big Ten, it just blows my mind. I mean,
that's going to be fun.
It will. I mean, why not? And I do agree with Coach Shiano when he says it's going to help recruiting, because now all of a sudden you're going to be able to go to California and recruit. Because I'm not going to worry about California recruiting guys from Jersey. I'm just not that Jersey kids won't want to go to California, but I think if they want to go, they go now. I just don't think it's going to make much of a difference.
No, I totally agree with that. If you get a USC offer from Jersey, you're probably going to at least go take a visit and check it out.
Yeah. So, and they just don't recruit here. Okay. So, by the way, I wanted to ask you, why hasn't Julius Turner landed with an NFL team yet? Is something he must be really upset.
The height, the lack of height. He
can't even get into a camp.
5'10", 5'9" on a good day, maybe.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it hurts. I'm a little shocked he didn't even get like a rookie camp invite or one of those rookie mini camps. I was a little shocked by that one, but I could see him going like the CFL or something and making some big bucks just playing.
Why not?
Playing.
Yeah, he could probably do well up there as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so we know what the quarterback situation. Does Simon have any chance at all?
He actually does. He actually looks pretty decent this spring, so I wouldn't be shocked if his name's right there in the mix. I don't think he ends up winning it because if you're going to go with either of the young guys, you probably go with the one with the higher potential, which would be Wimsatt. But if you're not going to go with one of the young guys, you just go with Vedral and go the safe route for now. And my thinking, like I said before, I think Vedral gets game 1, sprinkle in some Wimsatt here and there, and then I think game 2 versus Wagner, you let both of them like split reps, and because you shouldn't be able to even be concerned about Wagner. So I think maybe split series.
Simon could actually play like a half against Wagner.
See what happens, and then go.
Pacheco gone. So Young and Menagai, is that pretty much 2 guys that we're going to see the run of the snaps?
Yeah. Menangai's going to be running back 1. Aaron Young's still recovering from an injury last year. He did get dinged up a little bit in the Gator Bowl, I believe it was.
Okay.
So it's going to be interesting. He'll be running back 2 when he's fully healthy, or running back 1B, whatever you want to call him. There's a couple other options too. Al Shadi Salam is a really shifty, twitchy back. He's a little on the smaller side, but he was a little dinged up last year as well, so he'll be good to go now.
Okay.
Jameer Wright Collins is a converted linebacker. He's going to be that big power back, along with incoming 4-star Samuel Brown, who a lot of people have been hyping up big time.
Yeah, can't wait to see how he performs in camp because he'll get an opportunity.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So, I mean, one of those two is going to be that lead power back. I think they're going to – JWC is still kind of learning the position, so I think he's a little bit further away, whereas Samuel Brown's a little more developed, I would say, at the running back spot. So – it's going to be intriguing to see what happens there, but Menangai's definitely going to be that lead guy, that Cal Bell type back, I think. And then you can even ride the hot hand. You have enough guys now that are all pretty decent.
Yeah. And Menangai, actually, he looked pretty good last year. And it was like, hey, this kid's got something. So
he's shown glimpses.
Yeah. So interesting. Okay. So tight end, look, with Langan there, and now you have Alamo, and even Konopka's got another year. I think it's the best the tight end room has looked in a while. And we all know what we have in Langan. And I don't see him anywhere as far as people putting him in anywhere as far as tight end, even like in any top 20 or top 30 or top 40, and they don't know what they're talking about. Because Johnny Langan, in my mind, I think if he can concentrate, which I believe is going to happen, he's going to concentrate on the tight end position. And if he does that, I think he's going to be somebody that NFL teams are going to look at the time when he comes out because of how versatile he can be. And if he could learn the position, which I think he's going to, I think he could be a weapon.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think he has the potential. I can understand why people aren't putting him in that top 20 to 30 because you still got to see something out of him. And until you do, a lot of people it's seeing is believing. But we've seen glimpses here and there. He's made a couple nice catches last year. I think if he can learn to be a better receiver, and if he can learn his blocking techniques as well, I think the sky's the limit for him. One guy I'd keep a close eye on is Matt Alimo. This is I know I want to call it his make or break season, but he looked pretty good in the spring, and I wouldn't be shocked if he was leading that tight end receiving group, leading the tight end group as a receiver this year.
Okay.
He's shown some real good glimpses, and I think the potential's right there.
All right, wide receivers. Look, I think the 2 guys at the end of the year, they're going to end up with the top 2. Look, we all know Taj Harris will, but I think Shawn Ryan is going to be number 2. I'm not a big Shamin Jones fan. I kind of said that last year. I didn't see anything that changed my mind. He's just an okay number 4 or 5 receiver that's elevated to have to play higher reps because the Rutgers, we just don't have the talent. He's never made that jump, and I don't think he's going to at this point. Hey, shock me, surprise me, but I don't think it's going to happen. Same thing with Isaiah Washington. So that's why I think Ryan will end up number 2. The big deal is going to be, can they find a really exciting number 3? And I don't mean Cruikshank or Youngblood. So is there somebody? Give me a potential number 3 that could surprise.
I keep a close eye on Rashad Rochelle. He's making some real noise or I should say this past spring he made some real noise. He came in a little thin. I think he was around like the 155, 160 range.
Yeah.
But he did pack it on.
Right.
I think he added about 20 pounds already of muscle. I mean, Jay Butler's done extremely well with these guys and developing their bodies and getting them ready for college football. But he's so versatile. He's speedy. He similar to Johnny Langan, he played quarterback all throughout high school, and he's coming into Rutgers as a receiver. But most of these high school programs, if they don't have a decent quarterback at best, they're putting their best athlete at quarterback, and they're basically saying, hey, you could kind of chuck it a little bit, but you're just going to get this thing and run.
All right.
And that's kind of what he did. He's got vision. He's got speed. He's going to be a good one for Rutgers.
Excellent. Glad to hear it. And what about the health of Cruikshank, and do you think Youngblood will contribute this year?
It sounds like Cruikshank's going to be ready for camp, which is very optimistic, and that's huge for them. Youngblood, I'm still indifferent on. I haven't seen him show me much as a receiver yet. He's struggled with the route running in the past. He's still kind of learning the routes and stuff like that. His hands are just okay. I don't think he's unseating Cruikshank in that slot receiver spot, but I do think he'll probably be the fill-in when Cruikshank needs a break or something like that.
Okay. All right. By the way, before we turn around to the defense, any chance does Jacob Allen just redshirt?
Yeah, I think 100%. I think most most freshmen in general, as the offensive line, are probably going to redshirt.
Okay. All right. On defense now, Harris we just talked about, so that's huge. So now you got Harris and Lewis. Those are going to be your two primary edge rushers.
Harris, I'm indifferent on if he'll be the starter from game one because I haven't gotten to see him yet. Okay. But he did play at Texas A&M 2 games, so I mean that tells you he's probably going to start here. But with Toure out, Toure was by far their best edge rusher, and that was such a big loss for them. I know he wasn't putting up crazy numbers, but he did lead the team in sacks for 4.5 last year. Lewis has a lot of potential. His wingspan's incredible, so that's going to help him a ton on that edge.
He made some nice plays last year. We talked about it last year. He's developing nicely.
Yeah, he looks good. And then Chianti Hamilton kind of bounced in and out last year. He was playing inside at times at the 3-tech. He was playing on the edge at times. He could do almost everything. So it's going to be intriguing to see how they use him. Then you have Mayana Hanatu on the interior. You have Afani Maije on the interior. Renee Conga's another one to keep an eye on. Cam Stewart is actually one of my favorite young guys.
Okay.
He's going to make some serious noise there at the defensive end spot. He could bulk up and be a defensive tackle too.
Okay. So if you had to pick like a third edge rusher, a pure edge rusher, would that be Stewart?
It's either Stewart or Wesley Bailey. They're both making a lot of noise in camp. They're both looking really good. They bring different traits to the position as well. Stewart's more of the taller, bulkier guy. Okay. Wesley's more of the faster, quicker edge guy.
Okay.
But yeah, they're going to be interesting.
And how about the freshman? Kenny Fletcher? Is he the top potential freshman? Do you think he may?
I mean, you might see him with the 4-game rule with red shirts. You might see him a little bit. Yeah, but I don't expect him. I expect him to redshirt completely. He's very thin, and definitely he's another one that needs to pack on some of these pounds.
Okay. Linebacker. Now, unfortunately, another injury at linebacker, and they're still waiting the decision on Singleton. Yeah. So this is a huge season for Tyrone Powell, isn't it?
Yeah, he's going to be your best linebacker at the moment. I think even with Singleton back, he might still be your best linebacker. He's kind of that new age hybrid cover linebacker that can do a little of everything. Right. I don't know how he's going to fill in compared to like a Fado Kasi, who is just a tackling machine from sideline to sideline. But I don't know if you'll ever replace someone like that. So it's going to be tough. But Tyrone Powell's going to be the lead guy. I think you'll see a lot of Drew Singleton as long as he gets the waiver. I think those are going to be your 2 main ones. And I think they're going to run a ton of nickel. So you might just have 2 linebackers out there for most of the time. But you also have Deion Jennings, who's a veteran-type presence. The young guys are going to have to play. Anthony Johnson, 4-star linebacker, is going to have to play. The guy they just added recently, Dario Dajami, out of Canada, he was a last-minute addition to the camp in June.
Okay.
Got him on campus. He camped, and they're like, holy hell, get this kid a scholarship now.
Okay.
And got him enrolled.
When did this happen?
This was late June 28th or whatever it was. So the last camp of the season, they saw him, they put him on an official visit immediately and said, are you eligible to come now? And he said, yeah, my grades are all good to go. Sign me up. Enrolled within a week. So he's going to keep a close eye on. And it's gonna be interesting. They need some help there.
Who else is hurt on defense right now? Is it
just Moses Walker?
Moses Walker, okay.
And Muhammad Toure, obviously.
Okay. What about Banton?
Oh, Banton too. I completely forgot about Banton. He's still learning the position a little bit. He's got to get more of a feel for the schemes of the game. But I honestly, he's going to have to play too. There's not enough linebackers. It's concerning. That's their big issue right now. And rushing defense might be a concern.
But like you said, they're probably just going to play 2 guys most of the time anyway. And that's because they can use longer beam.
Yep.
In a variety of different roles. And he's an underrated kid. I mean, nobody really talks about longer beam very much because there's other guys to talk about. Max Melton gets most of the name recognition, and Avery Young in the secondary. But longer beam, a sneaky good player.
Yeah, no, I think longer beam's going to be one of those starting cornerbacks. I think they're going to rock with, like I said before, they're going to run more of a nickel. It's going to be probably Melton, Kassan Abram, and longer beam.
Another good player, Abram. Yes.
And they're longer beam and Abram are a little on the smaller side, but they're not afraid to go up there and jump up with the ball with other receivers. They're not afraid of anybody, pretty much.
We saw the big play by Abram last year in the Illinois game that won that one. Okay, so how do you pronounce Desmond's last name?
Igbinosun.
Is Igbinosun. Yep. Okay, and he's also obviously going to get a lot of playing time too.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if he's a starter at safety. He's that good. Like you saw the potential in the Gator Bowl, and it's all there. I mean, it's huge. He's gonna play significant snaps, if not starter snaps.
You know, I actually think Avery Young, he might end up their top NFL pick. He might. I know I don't think people, they're putting him like outside the top 20. They don't know how good this guy is. I think Avery Young is going to be so much better than these experts think at this point. I think it's just because he plays for Rutgers. But once he gets into the draft situation, he gets out there, I think he's going to be, I'd put him somewhere in the top 3 or 4 rounds.
Yeah, his lack of speed is just a super serious concern for me. And that's the biggest issue. If he can figure that out, then yeah, I mean, sky's the limit. But until then, it's going to be tough.
And kicking. So, by the way, Todd Bowles. Does he get playing time?
No.
Okay. Ambrosio.
Gone.
I mean, okay, goodbye. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Some people have talked about how they're going to miss him. I don't know why.
I don't get it.
So, I mean, but who's the kicker now?
So there's a couple guys fighting for this job now, and now it's going to be interesting. They have Jay Patel, who's a pretty well-known incoming freshman. Can't expect a whole lot out of a freshman. He's had some off-the-field medical problems recently, but he's good to go for camp, it sounds like. They also added Flynn Appleby, who's
Flynn Appleby. I like the name.
Irish transfer out of
Irish.
He's from a D2 school, D3 school, Lipscomb or something like that. So apparently he was coming in to be the kickoff guy for them, and he's shown some real potential. So I mean, he might be the starter there too.
Okay.
The third guy is obviously Guy Fava. Very familiar with. A lot of people know him. He's been working on his game quite a bit this offseason. And it's going to be an interesting battle. This is one actually like I'm intrigued to see in camp. And if they can get someone that can hit a 40-plus yarder,
it'd be important.
A huge difference for this program.
This is if we ever needed a place kicker, it's now.
Yeah.
And then Corsack. Wow. I mean, as long as he does what he does, he's going to win the Groza this year, walking away. And I wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't a 3rd-round draft pick. That's how good this kid can be. Because there was a punter, I believe, that was drafted. The kid from San Diego State. Was he a 4th-rounder, I believe?
I think 4th-rounder, yeah.
So I could see Corsack in the 3rd round. So
yeah,
he's awesome.
He's experimenting with the new punting styles. He's trying to get more like NFL attention on him. So he's experimenting more hang time, less Aussie style kicks. So I mean, if he can figure that out, then
when you can pin teams the way he can,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. I just we're so spoiled with him right now. But one more season, at least we get him another season. We did not think that was going to happen. So
yeah,
I'm so happy that he loves it at Rutgers so much that he's coming back another year. All right, so that's our pre-camp talk. Again, the nightreport.net, and you're a busy guy now because not only are you talking Rutgers, but you're also over at Rivals talking, what is it, Penn State and Connecticut?
Yep, talking everything in the Northeast. I'm slowly building my monopoly.
Awesome, great. I like to hear that. With Rutgers at the lead, though, of course.
Oh, of course. Okay.
Always. Penn State, Rutgers, some conflict there,
A little bit.
But, no Penn State on – wait, is Penn State on the schedule this year?
Oh, yeah, every year.
Oh, that's right. We're in the same division. What am I talking about? So
see when those divisions change.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. When is that going to be? 2 more years?
That's what they're saying. They think when USC and UCLA join, divisions gone.
Oh, there are no divisions at all?
No, they're just going to do I think it's going to be like honorable – or what do they call it? some kind of like guaranteed games. So like maybe like Rutgers will get like Maryland and Penn State every year, and then the rest will be whatever
Cool.
randomized.
Yeah,
which I
got to keep
cool
Penn State. Yeah, eventually we beat them, but got to keep them. But this also means we don't have to play Ohio State every year.
Yeah, that would be huge. And not Ohio State, Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan State. If you can kind of get these guys off the schedule every year and get more Big Ten West once in a while.
Awesome. I love it. It'll work. No wonder why Shiana's excited. All right, yeah. Richie, great job as always. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to talking to you again when the camp is over and we can zero in on Boston College at the end of the month, and we'll see whether or not your prediction runs true that Noah Vedral. You know what? By the time we talk in that week before the game, we still might not know. He might still not say anything.
He's going to hold this stuff like he does always. So pregame, game one,
but you're gonna let everybody know on the Rutgers Football Report on YouTube. You're gonna let everybody know while you're at camp, and you're gonna see it for yourself, and you're gonna be able to let the fans know what's going on.
Yeah,
and that's important. So because the coach ain't gonna say anything, so that's why they're gonna come to you, and they're gonna rely on what you see with your own two eyes. So,
yeah.
All right, excellent, Richie. We'll talk to you again in a few weeks. I appreciate it.
All right, see you later, Greg.